The Circuit Ricardo Tormo here in Valencia then is the venue for the MotoGP Esport Grand Final. A unique challenge on the circuit as well. It's going to be interesting to see who will line up where. A 10-minute qualifying session, so Matt, it is pretty crucial to get those laps in, especially in those early stages of the session.
Yeah, absolutely. Good news for these guys is the weather on the track in the virtual world is nothing like it is outside at the moment. It's been a horrendous Friday weather-wise here, but on the track, completely dry conditions. We were expecting some seriously quick lap times yesterday in our little rehearsals, where these guys did have a full qualifying session and race. It was some phenomenal action the way through, though plenty of crashes, and lots of people really mussed up their sessions towards the end of the 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely right. It is, as we say, crucial to get those lap times in pretty early on, because they are very tough here, Race Direction, in terms of track limits. That's one thing especially to mention, and we'll guide you through that over the course of the session when lap times do get disallowed, because it's not a case of if they will get disallowed, it's when they will get disallowed, because all these riders, of course, they're just pushing those limits, trying to push that little bit hard and get those sessions and those lap times in underway. No, speaking of underway, the session is go. It's time for qualifying to get underway. Then 10 minutes and these guys will get one out lap. Then they'll start their flying laps over the course of this session. You can see the Aspar Ducati making their way out. That's Davide Gallina, 23. Here is the reigning champion, though, Matt Trastevere, on board that factory Ducati.
Yeah, he said in your interview with him on stage there, Tom, he is really focused on this qualifying, getting the best lap possible. He wants that pole position again. He knows just how crucial it is. Although we've already had a crash, it seems, at that point. At the moment, it's only an out lap. You've got to be, well, he hasn't invalidated any lap time this time around, because of course they're not setting one, but you don't want to be making mistakes this early on, Tom. It's only 9 minutes left.
Well, absolutely right there, Matt. And of course, cold tyres, it is a factor on the MotoGP 18 video game, so it's just crucial to not push too hard in those first few corners, as a few riders have done. That was Andrew ZH who sent it down the road. Just looking here at Christian MM17, your winner from semi-final 1 in Mazzano. He is on board the Repsol Honda machine, and he'll be looking to try and take victory here tonight. But he needs to get himself a good qualifying position. He's just on his outlap there behind the Estrella Lithium BDS Honda. That's Eligos 555. Now on board with Andrew ZH. Just flicking it left into this final sector. It's one of the few overtaking opportunities coming down into the final corner here, Matt.
Yeah, and I was just noticing how bunched up they all are. We saw the same in qualifying yesterday as well. Now, of course, you're not going to find any sorts of things of cruising around on track and getting penalised for that by Race Direction. But you do want to pay attention between who you're chasing at the moment. Some of these guys a little bit slower than maybe others at certain times, and you don't want to get caught up in back markers, get caught in too much traffic. This isn't the race, this is qualifying. It's all about that one out lap time. So we should be getting the first sectors coming in at the moment. Obviously, it's going to be personal best. And Tom, you want to clarify what the colours mean?
Yeah, absolutely right. You can see the tower graphic on the left-hand side of your screen. If it's in orange, as it is for all of the riders, of course, because they're on their first representative lap time, it means it's a personal best sector for those particular riders. If it goes red in any particular sector, that means it's an overall best sector time. And if it goes grey, that means it's not an improvement on either, of course, the overall time or indeed their personal best time in that particular part in the lap. Of course, because no representative lap times have been set thus far, it does mean that all lap times coming in at the moment are going to be personal best as we stand. Just to mention as well on that graphic, the white triangles with the red background on them, that means that lap time has been disallowed. We talked about that. We will already see Timothy McGarden has had his lap time disallowed, presumably for track limits.
Yeah, and we're keeping an eye on Paul IG at the moment, who's got clear track all around him. Nobody around, so no distractions whatsoever at the moment. And it looks like, it was looking to be a pretty good lap at that particular stage, but more invalidated laps coming in, including Paul IG himself. Have a Vindex 813 crossing the line at the moment, a full gaggle of riders here.
Yeah, we just saw Christian MM17 as well. He sadly went down on his first flying lap. You can see the first lap times coming in then. It is Andrew ZH, the man who was actually quickest in the races we had yesterday, just to give these guys a bit of practice. He was very fast, but he has had a crash then on his second flying lap. So lap number 2 is not going to be an improvement for Andrew ZH, but a 1 minute 23.389 is a very good banker lap time for the Spanish rider.
Yeah, and the best thing about this, look how close those gaps are at the moment, just sort of 1/10 separating them, and we're looking at Luigi 48 GP, just 0.050. I think that is on our timing screens, just down at the moment. Oh, he's got an invalidated lap time, so I know he's crashed even. So that's really, really scuppered that one. How many minutes have we got left on the clock, Tom? Just keep it on ticking down.
Yeah, absolutely right there, Matt. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Here's Trastevere, though. He's on an absolute flyer over the course of this one. You can see on the left-hand side of your picture, that is the Italian, the reigning champion at the moment, and he is looking like he's going to set himself at the top of the timesheets towards the end of this lap. Still plenty of time for that to change, though, and we'll keep an eye and see how Trastevere does get on, whether he will be able to improve on this lap time. We flick on board now with your reigning champion through that fast right-hander and then over into that final sector. The circuit really does go uphill here and then drops away quite significantly down to that final corner.
Yeah, and it's off camber as well. We saw plenty of riders going down there today also in the free practice sessions. They were wet. The treacherous conditions were a bit more amplified than they are here, but you need to be careful. And you mentioned earlier about the cold tyre factor as well. That turn 12 back there was the last time we're on the right-hand side of the tyre until turn 4. Turn 4, the classic Valencia hotspot to be going down and binning it. We got another invalidated lap time there from Royo 26 down there, and well, personal best sector's coming in still. We're on board with Christian MM17, just starting another lap. He's coming up to a yellow flag zone where another rider's crashed.
That's Andrew ZH who's gone down at turn number 2, sadly there. So the Movistar Yamaha goes down in that first sector. Trastevere, meanwhile, is at the top of your time sheets currently. That lap was good enough to go fastest by over a tenth of a second to Andrew ZH. Christian MM17 shortly after that, neatly slotting himself into second position. So the front row of the grid are the quickest 3 competitors that we've seen so far here in Valencia. Will that be a trait that continues over the course of this session? Just under 5 minutes now remaining, Matt. We're already past the halfway point in this session, and it could get pretty interesting.
Yeah, Christian MM17, 2 personal best sectors there behind Trastevere, who's got an invalidated lap time as well. Look who's coming along nicely though, Paul IG, we're on board with him at the moment. 3 personal best sectors there. He's not far off the fastest time at all. You're looking at him on your screen there. Look at the focus in his eyes. It's just like the clear visors of the riders out on track earlier today.
Yeah, we just saw Christian MM17 having yet another crash in that session. So sadly, it's 2 laps out of 2 that he's not going to be able to improve by the looks of things for Christian MM17. Paul IG, here he is on board the Monster Yamaha Tech 3 machine, is now up into 3rd position. The outside of the front row as it stands for Paul so far. He's leading the pack, as you can see, that graphic on the right-hand side of your screen, that track map. So he has got clear track in front of him, and that might prove to be a benefit here for the Spaniard.
Yeah, it could well be. Oh, it's another crash there. Timothy McGarden, he's gone down too. Trastevere still on that invalidated lap time at the moment. 3 minutes, well, just under 4 minutes to go here. You can't afford to make any more mistakes in these crucial final stages.
And speaking of crucial as well, one thing we should mention is that if you do cross the line with a few seconds remaining, you are able to complete that lap, even if the timer has run out. So these guys will probably get around 2 or 3 more flying laps in over the course of this session. And it is an out-and-out session where they're just going flat out over the course of it as well. Tyre wear, fuel is not a factor during these qualifying sessions, so it does mean that they can just go absolutely flat out.
Hell for leather is what you're looking for, Tom, there.
It's the best way of putting it, and that's what they can do over the course of this session.
Andrew ZH gone down there. I knew that was going to... I saw his entry was looking a bit wide there. Just a bit too much trail braking going on, and down he went. Saw a few riders happen to that today as well. Heavy braking zone at the end of the back straight.
Yeah, that's down towards turn number 8 where he crashed, sadly, for Andrew ZH. Let's have a look at a replay of what happened. You can see him there trail braking, running a little bit wide, a little bit off the racing line. The front end tucks, and he goes down into the gravel. So Andrew ZH, not an improvement on this lap for him. He's going to have another couple of laps on the left to set some competitive lap times, but he is going to have a bit of an uphill struggle. He's currently heading the 2nd row of the grid. Here's Adrian 26 then on board the Alma Pramac Ducati. Let's see what he can do coming down in towards turn number 2 at the moment.
He's got that LCR Honda in front of him. Is it going to hold him up a little bit? Not sure. We shall find out fairly shortly.
Yeah, Adrian 26 actually going down on that lap there, so a crash for him. Ryorka 26 also crashing out there as well. So they're dropping like flies in the latter parts of this session, and of course it doesn't necessarily disrupt it in the same way as it would do in MotoGP on the circuit here in Valencia, but on the video game it does mean their lap time's disallowed, so they have to go round again to start their next flying lap in the session.
Yeah, and give it sort of about 40 seconds or so, and if you have a crash you can forget improving your lap time one little bit. Trastevere though still commanding at the top. We're looking at him now. That was very, very wide at turn 8 though, incredibly wide, completely missed the apex basically.
Yeah, you can see him there really taking liberties of track limits as well. That's one thing Race Direction are going to be very, very harsh on over the course of this one. You can see him there really, really wide going through.
He was keeping it wide. I think he was letting someone else go through on him, so make sure they weren't following him in any way. He can get around for pretty well. You get around for one more flying lap now, and that's going to be the case for most of these riders at the moment.
Through the right-hander we go. We're looking at Andrew ZH here coming down in towards the fast right-hander into this final sector of the lap, and Andrew ZH with it all to do now then in 4th position. Luigi 48 GP behind him. We just pick him up now on board the Aprilia. Another crash as well. XX Bomber 45 has sadly gone down. He's down in 11th position so far in this session. Over the timeline we go. Luigi 48 GP, 5th fastest. No improvement for him on this lap, and he's going to have one flying lap left in the bag to try and improve. So every time these guys come over the line, it will be their final flying lap in this session. So through in towards turn number 2, Luigi 48 GP goes. He needs a stonking first sector. Trastevere at the moment, you can see that as well at the top of your screen. He is very, very consistent over the course of this race, over the course of this qualifying session, rather, I should say. Trastevere, and you saw that as well with that first sector. He was only a few hundredths down on his best time. Ellie goes 5.55. Meanwhile, on board the Mark VDS, Honda is in 12th position so far. He's got it all to do, really, to try and improve, and it's not proven to be a particularly lightning lap for Ellie Ghost at the moment.
No, really struggling a little bit. We watched yesterday in their sort of rehearsal race. He had a massive clash across the line, but he qualified a lot better than this, if I remember rightly. I think it was the second row of the grid, but a big clash off the line. Really left him back in the pack, and a lot of work to do. But here we go, 16 seconds left on the clock. Can he get through in time, or is this going to be the lap that is going to set his lap time for the grid? We shall find out. Well, the LCR Honda coming over the line now.
Reigning champion Trastevere's crashed. Christian MM17. The top two have crashed out on their final flying lap, so no improvements at the top of the order at least. Vindex comes over the line. It's only going to be 7th fastest for Vindex then at the latter part of this session. David Galina as well. He is on a personal best lap time. You can see him there with the orange sectors. Can he improve in time as he gets ready to come over the line? David Galina, does he improve? Yes, he does, but not in position in terms of lap time. He is still in 10th place down on the final row of the grid. Trastevere, though, the reigning champion, well, you ask him questions, he's able to answer, and he has put it on pole position ahead of the grand final.
He doesn't just answer through the talking, he doesn't talk the walk, he walks the walk as well. Pole position then for Trastevere. Absolutely class work from the Italian there. We've got some Ducati royalty in the audience as well. They'll love seeing their bike up the sharp end as well. But are we going to get any late upsets here? Looks like Vindex 813 coming around. Could cause maybe a bit of an upset. Only personal best in the third sector at the moment. Tricky right-hander.
Yeah, Vindex on board the LCR Honda. Let's have a look and see what he's going to be able to do. You can see the gaps, just 0.4 of a second separating them down to 8th position. Only half a second separating the top 12 riders. And Vindex looking like he could potentially put himself onto the second row here. He was only a 10.5 down. He's coming down in towards the final sector, the final few corners of this lap, down in towards that final right-hander. He needs a good run onto this start-finish straight. Vindex could be onto the second row of the grid here. Over the line he comes, and what is he able to do? Well, he does improve up to 7th fastest, but it is only the third row of the grid for the LCR Honda rider.
Third row of the grid. Well, I'll tell you what, one thing's for sure, turn one, which he just passed through, it could get pretty messy, Tom Brooks. That was a fascinating qualifying session. Andrew ZH, though, whereabouts has he fallen down the order? He's in 5th. Yesterday he was well up there. Has he got the pace for the race? We'll soon find out.
Well, just one thing to mention, of course, is that the lap times are so close between those riders, as we said, at just over half a second separating the top 12. Andrew ZH there, he was only a 10th, just over under 0.2 of a second, rather shy of the fastest lap time that Trastevere set over the course of that session. However, there was just nothing that he was able to do for the riders behind. And Trastevere, you can see him now here, just cooling down and getting himself ready to go for this race coming up later on. It's a 10-lap race here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia, and that was very exciting indeed to see Trastevere on pole position. And he goes 5.55, actually managed to pull something really out of the bag there, Matt, in the latter parts of that session. Very impressive performance from the Mark VDS Honda rider.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. Well, he was the man to beat in semi-final one as well. Let's find out how he can do it in the race coming up shortly. What a qualifying session that was, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. You can see here the competitors now just sat there ready to get themselves psyched up ahead of this grand final race very shortly. There's your classification after that qualifying session. Trastevere, Ellie goes 5.55, Christian MM17 on the front row of the grid. Paul IG, Andrew ZH, Luigi 48 GP are on row 2. Row 3, Vindex 813, Adrian 26 and Timothy McGarden. And then the fourth and final row of the grid, Davide Galina, Ryorka 26 and Bomber 45, completing the 12 fastest gamers here in the MotoGP Esport Grand Final.
Yeah, well, we're going to probably have a look at some highlights soon as well. That was absolutely class. Trastevere, he came in and with that interview and he said, hey, look, I'm going to go on that pole position. I want to win it. He wants another BMW, Tom. Yeah. Do you think we'll get a joyride in it?
Well, we can try. I mean, I'm not entirely sure that that's going to go down to, well, not that one in particular anyway, over our shoulders. Here's Christian MM17 then, second fastest at the end of qualifying. What is he going to be able to do? He's on board the Repsol Honda, and let's see whether he is going to be able to put himself in a good performance. Let's have a look, though, at some highlights over the course of that session. So, the session got underway. It was a 10-minute qualifier for the riders to set their fastest times.
Yeah, and a very, very tricky, tight and twisty circuit is indeed a completely different challenge to what they're used to from all the other challenges that we had this season and the semi-finals, of course. Paul IG, he had a pretty good run, but some invalidated lap times there. He also had a crash as well. Christian MM17, to tell you what, if this was in not outside of the virtual world, it would have been an expensive qualifying session. In the early stages, plenty of personal best, but just as many invalidated lap times. Look at the concentration on Christian MM17's face there. Trastevere, though, was he ever really out of the question that he wasn't in command? He looked seriously confident here, although you can see just at the end of that session when we're getting all the riders' reaction, the big exhale there, head in his hand, sort of, this means so much to him.
Yeah, absolutely right. You can see the concentration on the rider's face there. You can see Trastevere just taking a look over to his competitors, and you can see that was a crash for Christian MM17. Not his only one that he had over the course of that session. Let's see whether he can try and turn things around and keep it on two wheels in qualifying. And he goes 5.55 though. It was a bit of a quiet qualifying session for him, right up until he pulled an absolute stormer out of the bag towards the end, and he qualifies on that front row.
Yeah, absolutely, Carlos. I was getting a little bit worried about him towards the end of the session, was wondering how he's going to get on, but yeah, really pulled it out of the bag when it really mattered. A crash there from Andrew ZH. Was that maybe the crash that actually hampered his confidence a little bit, that leaves him down there? Fifth place finishing and fifth place starting on the grid. Here was Trastevere, though. He's already in first position at this point. The checkered flag came out. And well, Tom, qualifying's over. We've shown who can do the outright one-off lap faster than anybody else, but who's got the racecraft and the pace to go for the win.
Well, Trastevere there, he's riding the factory Ducati here in Valencia, and you can see exactly what he was able to pull out of the bag on board that GP18. A very, very impressive performance from the 2017 World Champion. Anyway, it's time to head back down over to Amy because they're going to be giving out the Tissot watch.
Tom, so just like we see after a normal MotoGP qualifying, we do have a Tissot watch for our poleman tonight. So Trastevere would like to come and join me here in the centre of the stadium whilst you make your way over to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight to do the honours of handing over our Poleman's Award. So please join me in welcoming Jorge Lorenzo. Thanks, guys. So Jorge Lorenzo is handing over the Tissot T-Race MotoGP 2018 limited edition watch. Jorge, if you would like to do the offers and give the award to Trastevere, I'll step aside and there'll be a moment now for photo. And thank you so. Well, Trastevere, good luck tonight for the final. You can go and take your seat. Jorge, you can stay with me because we've got some time for a couple of questions. Yes. Absolutely. So thank you so much, Lorenzo. You can go back to your seat now.
Felicidades, gracias.